You're in a meeting. Someone says something that lands just slightly wrong. Not aggressive, not even personal. But you feel it, a small spike of heat behind your ribs. Your face stays neutral. Inside, your mind is already writing a comeback. Then the moment passes. Later that night, you replay it. And you wonder, why couldn't you just let it go in the first place? This isn't weakness. It's not a lack of discipline, and it has almost nothing to do with willpower. Here's what most people never realize. Emotional control is rare for a very specific reason. Your brain wasn't built for it. Not in the way self-help quotes describe. Not as a switch you flip. Emotional regulation is a biological exception, not a default setting. And understanding why that's true changes everything about how you see your own reactions. Let's break this down. Think of your brain as a house with two floors. The ground floor is ancient. It's been there for millions of years. That's where your amygdala lives, the alarm system. It doesn't think. It detects threat in milliseconds. A raised voice, a dismissive look, a sudden change in tone. That alarm doesn't care if the threat is a tiger or a sarcastic comment from a coworker. It just reacts. The second floor is newer. That's your prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, reasons, and delays. It's slower. It needs oxygen, glucose, and calm to work properly. Emotional control requires the second floor to override the first. But here's the catch. The alarm system has a direct line to your body. It can raise your heart rate, release cortisol, and narrow your attention before the thinking brain even knows what happened. That's why emotional control is rare. Not because you're broken, because you're fighting a response that evolved to keep you alive, not to keep you polite. Let's get specific. Every second of every day, your brain is scanning for relevance. This is called automatic appraisal. It happens outside awareness. Your brain asks one question about everything you see, hear, or remember. Does this matter to me? If the answer is no, nothing happens. If the answer is yes, the brain instantly tags the experience as good, bad, threatening, or rewarding. That tagging happens before you can choose to feel differently. Here's a realistic scenario. You're walking through a grocery store. Someone cuts in front of you without looking. Your brain tags that as a status violation, a small social threat. Within half a second, your jaw tightens, your breathing changes. You didn't decide to feel annoyed. The appraisal happened automatically. Most people think emotional control means stopping that first feeling. But that's impossible. The appraisal is faster than conscious thought. Real emotional control isn't about preventing the spark. It's about not letting the spark become a fire. Here's an original metaphor. Imagine your emotions are a car's warning light. The light comes on when something's wrong. You can't stop the light from turning on. But you can decide whether to pull over and check the engine or keep driving while panicking. Emotional control is the space between the warning light and your reaction. That space is tiny for most people. That's why control is rare. Here's something self-help advice never mentions. Emotional control requires mental energy. A lot of it. Psychologists call this ego depletion. It's not a perfect theory, but the core idea holds up. Every time you suppress a reaction, reframe a thought, or calm yourself down, you're using cognitive resources. Those resources are limited. Imagine you've had a long day. You've been making decisions, filtering your tone, staying professional. By 6 p.m., your mental fuel is low. Then your partner says something mildly irritating. And you snap, not because you're a bad person, because your brain's second floor is exhausted. The alarm system is running on full power, and there's nothing left to override it. This is why emotional control fails most often at the end of the day, or during stress, or when you're hungry or tired. Those aren't excuses. They are mechanical realities. Most people believe emotional control is a skill you either have or don't. In reality, it's more like a battery. Some people start with a larger battery. Some people learn to recharge faster. But no one has unlimited charge. And here's the part most people completely miss. Trying too hard to control your emotions can actually make it worse. When you aggressively suppress a feeling, your brain treats that suppression as another threat. The alarm system doubles down. Now, you're not just angry, you're angry about being angry. That's a loop. And loops are hard to break. So far, we've talked about automatic appraisals and limited mental energy. But there's a deeper layer, something most people never connect to emotional control. It has to do with social status. Here's the psychological paradox hiding underneath all of this. Your brain treats social rejection the same way it treats physical pain. The same neural circuits activate. The same stress hormones release. From your brain's perspective, being dismissed in a conversation is not metaphorically painful. It is literally painful. Now think about that. Emotional control becomes rare because your brain is trying to protect you from what it interprets as physical harm. That's not a flaw. That's the system working exactly as designed. The problem is that the design is ancient. It doesn't know the difference between being exiled from your tribe and getting a passive-aggressive text from a friend. This is where emotional control gets dangerously misunderstood. People think losing control means you're weak. But from an evolutionary perspective, losing control is often a last-ditch attempt to restore social safety. An outburst, a defensive comment, a withdrawal. Those aren't failures of character. They are ancient survival programs running in a modern environment. Let's walk through a fictional but realistic scenario. You're in a group conversation. Someone makes a joke at your expense. Everyone laughs. It's light. No one means harm, but inside you feel a quick drop, a small social injury. Your face stays neutral. You even laugh along. But here's what happens underneath. Your brain registers a status threat. Your cortisol rises slightly. Your attention narrows. Now, for the next several minutes, you're more sensitive. You scan faces for approval. You monitor tone more closely. You're more likely to misinterpret neutral comments as negative. That's the status threat loop. One small hit makes you more reactive. Being more reactive makes another hit more likely. And emotional control requires you to step off that loop before it spins out. Most people can't do that in real time. Not because they're weak, because the loop is designed to be self-reinforcing. Evolution wants you to care about status. Status affected survival for most of human history. Your brain isn't being difficult. It's being faithful to an old operating system. Here's the awareness takeaway. When you fail to control an emotion, ask yourself not, "What's wrong with me?" but "What threat did my brain just register?" That single reframe changes everything. It moves you from self-judgment to self-understanding. And understanding is the foundation of actual control, not suppression. Almost everyone learns emotional control as "stop feeling this." That's the cultural script. Be calm. Don't cry. Don't get angry. Don't show fear. But that's not control. That's masking. And masking doesn't reduce the emotion. It just hides the signal while the pressure builds underneath. Real emotional control is something else entirely. It's the ability to notice an emotion without being captured by it. To feel anger and still choose your response. To feel anxiety and still act. To feel shame and still speak. That kind of control is rare because it requires practice that most people never get. Schools don't teach it. Families often model the opposite. And the entertainment world shows emotional explosions as drama or stoic silence as strength, neither of which is regulation. Here's an original metaphor. Imagine emotions are weather. You can't stop a storm from coming, but you can learn to stand in it without being knocked over. Most people try to build walls against the storm. That works for a while. Then the walls break. The alternative is learning to bend, not break. That's rare because bending takes practice. Walls take effort. Effort feels like control, but it's not. Let's go back to that meeting. The one where you felt the heat behind your ribs and said nothing. You probably spent the rest of the day wondering why you couldn't just let it go. You might have called yourself oversensitive or told yourself to toughen up. But here's what's actually true. Your brain did exactly what it evolved to do. It scanned for threat. It found one, even a small one. It prepared your body to defend your social standing. That's not a malfunction. That's a mismatch between ancient wiring and modern life. Emotional control is rare, not because people are lazy or undisciplined. It's rare because it asks your brain to override its own survival instincts. It asks your slow, energy-hungry prefrontal cortex to outrun your fast automatic alarm system. And sometimes it wins. Often it doesn't. The people who get better at emotional control aren't the ones who suppress hardest. They're the ones who understand the mechanics. They know the alarm will sound. They know the battery will drain. They know status threats will feel like physical pain. And they stop fighting that reality. They start working with it. Here's something worth sitting with. What if your hardest emotional reactions aren't proof of weakness, but evidence that your brain is trying to protect you from a threat that no longer exists in the way it thinks it does? And what might change if you stopped asking yourself to feel less and started asking yourself to see more clearly?